This is Paul Nobles from ETPerform.com. I am sitting here with April Blackford. April, if you want to say hi to everyone.
Hi, Rabani.
So, April and I were at the Granite Games with a bunch of the other Eat to Perform team members this weekend in St. Cloud, Minnesota. And we got to meet a lot of Eat to Performers in person. It's something that we definitely plan on doing more. Pretty sure we're going to um, maybe go to the East Coast Championship and then probably some regionals and then the CrossFit Games. Um, so hopefully we can kind of get out and meet everybody and it's really cool because we're probably about a year and a half in of Eat to Perform. I know everybody thinks that wow, how did you guys get so big so fast? And we think that a lot too. Um, but but now it's to the point where I think we just need to kind of get out and just meet with people. We had so many people competing in the elite division. Um, you know, I haven't really been able to talk to April, but I've been seeing a lot of pictures of people that we work with that like won events, like Nick Delagram, one of the guys that we feature on the page a lot. His team, the fraternity team, they won. So yeah, that's been kind of interesting. Um, well, we do have a couple questions early on, so let's see. Okay, so Paul, after losing your most recent 5 pounds, you said your goal now is to work your calories back up to where they were previously and beyond while getting even stronger. How's that been going so far, and how much of a challenge do you think it will be overall going forward? I don't think it's going to be a challenge at all. Um, my I've only had a couple weeks since the challenge stopped. It hasn't been difficult. I did get sick. I actually haven't worked out in a week. And one of the things that I often used to talk about, and I still think it's really important topic to cover, is the ability to kind of keep your weight stable and fat off when you're sick, injured, or not working out. And like I said, I was sick. We were kind of burning the candles at both ends with the Granite Games. April and I were just both talking about it. There's been a big weather change here in Minnesota, and so it's kind of gotten chilly really quickly. Start of school season has kind of affected me, so sleep kind of went down. Came back from the Granite Games. Weight was right at 177, which if you'd been following, you know, 177 was kind of the top end, and then I can kind of low carb and get down to 175 pretty easily. But I do still kind of want to get into that 173 range, and that's probably still a goal for me. But after this weekend, I'm definitely pretty anxious about trying to get back into the gym and kind of getting more fitnessy type goals. I think I'm going to start working a little bit more on my deadlift, just because I tried to pull 455 the other day and missed, and so that's a number that I should normally be able to hit pretty easily. Um, and so I think I'm going to do more deadlift specific training real soon here, and then I'd probably like to get my squat around 350. I've been able to do 315 for reps a couple times. I do use wraps right now, but I can raw squat right around 300, which for me is a pretty big number because squat's been kind of um, a lagging thing for me. But I guess my point being is that basically every single thing you could possibly think of set up against me, yet my weight is still pretty much the same. Especially if you saw, followed the challenge. I was at 177 a lot. Especially as I got closer to 175, and so the reason why I think it's important for people to be able to control their weight, when they're hurt, when they're sick, or when they're on vacation, is because too many people feel a need to work out to control their weight. And if you do that, what ends up happening is you work out a lot compromised, where you kind of got a little something something, and you know you should take a break, but then you're kind of concerned that you're going to get fat. I don't think thoughts like that. I know for a long, I've known how for a long time. There's a couple ways to do it. You can do it kind of eating lowish carb. That's not my favorite way to do it. I'll be completely honest with you. When I was at the Granite Games, I basically controlled it by not eating very much. Because my options just weren't that great, and so oftentimes, like I think Saturday as an example, April, I had like some yogurts. I had like 3 or 4 yogurts in the early part of the day, and then we had kind of a biggish meal that night, but not a lot of food. I knew I was controlling things because we just couldn't control our foods. You didn't unless you just go to Chipotle every day, which isn't also like the most amazing health food store. I'm just not a lot of times in those situations just going to go salads all the time. That's just boring and not fun. And so I usually control it by only eating 2 meals a day, and I tend to like to have one bigger meal later in the day, so oftentimes I'll just eat kind of a smaller meal earlier in the day. So yeah, I would say things are going good. I'm pretty excited about. I don't think I'll have any problem. I am actually kind of looking forward, especially after this weekend and seeing a lot of the athletes that we work with. Um, you know, I don't think I'll ever be like superstar CrossFit guy, but I know I do CrossFit better, closer to 170, 165. And so I'm a little bit excited about that. I haven't really noticed any of my strength going down. Like I said, my deadlift, I struggled a little bit with my deadlift, but I haven't been training deadlift in almost a year.
Sorry to say, I think that was because you were kind of focused on your squat for a while, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, after November, there was really no real reason. I mean, I deadlifted 474. I mean, I was working with over 500 many times, and it just started to get to a point where you could sort of feel it pulling on you, and I just needed to get stronger overall. And I do think my legs are stronger overall. I think some of my upper back, um, my traps, things of that nature need to get a little bit more activated. But they'll remember pretty quickly. I don't have any worries about my deadlift. My squat's always the thing that I sort of worry about. And so, if I could figure out a way to get, because in a powerlifting competition, you can use reps. And so if I could squat 405 with reps, that would be that would be huge, especially when you consider where I came into CrossFit, and how poor my squat was in general. So he did have a following question. While still staying at your new body weight, body fat level, yeah, I haven't really struggled very much at all staying at this level. In fact, I haven't really seen any time as an example where I've gone to 180. Now, if I did go to 180, I mean, if I had you know a nice meal out with friends or something of that nature, big sodium type meal. You could see it. Usually, you just flush water out, and that'll go away. So that's not really a huge concern for me. I do keep an eye on it though. Don't make any mistake about that. I do understand that if I went too far with it, I'd be struggling. But I am looking forward to kind of adding my activity levels higher. And before I got sick, I was definitely eating, right around 3,000, 3,500 calories on a daily basis, and really not seeing my weight go up, dramatically, or if at all. But obviously, I was doing some wadding. Some of my strength training sessions were a little longer and stuff like that, and so that's how I was able to kind of stay at that level. It is sort of interesting how you kind of control your weight, and then you kind of get out of that mindset a little bit, and you realize it doesn't take a whole lot more to just be weight stable, you know. And so it's kind of interesting for people that don't know. I was doing this challenge. I went from 180 to 175, and so I'll be sitting at 175 going into January through the holidays, and then I'm going to try and keep my calorie point higher, 3,000 to 3,500, probably closer to 3,000 to be completely honest with you, though. Um, it would be very rare for me to have a 3,500 day, but it does happen on occasion. Um, and then I'll go back for that next 5 pounds and see how it feels. And I said a lot of time this weekend, I was like, as much as I'd like to get to 170, 165, and I would CrossFit better, the problem is I always feel like I look like a bobblehead doll when I get too small with my body. So, I'll know when it's right and when it's not right. And, frankly, I'm never going to be like an all-star CrossFit guy or anything like that. But it is important to me to deadlift 500. It is important to me to squat, in the fours. Being able to do 315 for reps, even with wraps that it was huge. The nice thing about the wraps is I'm not very comfortable going wide, and so it's developing some of the abductor muscles and things of that nature, and so now I'm a little bit more comfortable wide. And if anybody saw on Instagram, I just PR'd my overhead squat at 125, and it looked pretty easy. So I'm pretty sure that with a few technique adjustments, I'll be able to kind of get that up to 165, 185, because the strength in the legs is there. So let's see. Do you have any thoughts on that, April? I mean, in terms of, because that's a big topic in the forums, right? People wanting to make sure that they, that the wheels don't come off when they're sick or
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's funny that you had talked about, going on vacation and people trying to exercise or work out to overcompensate. I'm dealing with a lady in the forum right now I've been dealing with for a while, and she just went on her annual vacation, goes every year, and normally she said she brings weights, and she actually goes to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and said that she walks. Typically, she'll walk like the whole pier and back, and it ends up being like 10 miles a day. And I told her, I was like, don't do any of that stuff. I said, don't do, I was like, walk on the beach,
Yeah.
spend some time with your husband, relax, take a nap, and eat. Don't go crazy, but, just relax and don't stress yourself out. And, and she promised me she'd do it, and she did it, and her weight was actually the same. It was exactly the same as it was when she left. Enjoying
People really
food.
underestimate the value of sleep, you know,
Exactly.
and
Exactly.
just like hanging out on the beach, and getting those stress levels down and coming back with a fighting attitude when you get back home.
Exactly, and it was funny because she messaged me a couple times while she was away, and she was like, this has been awesome. This has been like the best vacation ever. I told her, I
Yeah.
said that's what vacations are supposed to be about. You're not supposed to stress about, you know, well, I need to, burn some calories, or I need to do this, or I need to do that. If you want to go for a walk on the beach because you enjoy it, then do it. But don't go for a walk on the beach because you feel like you need to get a workout in. So
Right. Now, I love going to CrossFit gyms outside of the area. You know what I mean? That's always a good time. But I don't, try to kill myself, when I'm on vacation.
Exactly, exactly, and and I do too. Just like when we were up there this past weekend, Suzanne and I went to this little gym up the road from the hotel, and it was awesome because the gym was brand new. There was like a bunch of older people that were there that were all on the cardio machines. So we
Yeah.
had all the racks, all the deadlifting platform, everything to ourselves, and they were giving me, of course they were kind of staring because I was dropping weights and everything else. Basically, we just
Right.
kept some rebels making all kinds of noise and stuff like that. But it was fun. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, that's cool. So Dixie is saying she's looking for a list that hopefully is already posted. It would be helpful having a list of pre-workout meals and post-workout meals. I know that Stacy had a list of um, of carbs that people suggest.
We do. We actually have a list in the forum of slow and fast digesting carbs. In,
Yeah.
in the forum. We don't have a list of meals. I know typically, if a new member wants to post, hey, what's your go-to, and she can even search the thread topic because that's been asked, 30
A
times.
million
What's
times,
your
yeah.
go-to pre-workout meal, post-workout meal? And everybody kind of chimes in what they like and what they prefer, and what sounds good and what doesn't, type thing.
Yeah, what I normally do is, I say this a lot. If if I have like a post-workout drink, which is like some level of carbs in the post-workout or pre-workout drink, some level of carbs, and maybe some protein. Um, the carbs actually are more important for me than the protein. Usually, I can reach my protein levels, but I try to stay relatively low carb until I get within 2 to 3 hours. In terms of pre-workout meals, I would say rice, sweet potatoes, any kind of starch that's 2 to 3 hours before as real food. Um, a drinkable carb like Vitargo or something like that you can do within 30 minutes, and even if you're just doing like a slow lifting session, you can sip on that during the session. Post workout, so if I do a drink pre workout, I eat real food post workout. If I eat real food pre workout, I typically have a drink post workout. So that's how I do it. But I think more than anything, what you'll see when you get in the forums is that a lot of people are going to have a lot of different ideas, and you have to try and see what feels like the most right thing for you. And because we can tell people a million different things and give you all kinds of suggestions. Um, but I do believe that those starches pre workout. It's sort of funny because people tend to focus on this pre workout or this post workout. And we were actually talking about this weekend of how you can really make almost anything work, you know, but the thing that most of us see is that if you have some usable carbohydrate pre-workout, that's the one thing that we all try to have because we want to have energy for the workouts to do more work capacity, things of that nature. But also the it just will power you through. That's basically it. I kind of lost track of thought there. Any thoughts on that, April?
I usually do. Of course, I'm Southern. I like slower digesting carbs. I usually do grits and I do grits and eggs pre-workout. Post-workout, I usually do. I'm kind of similar to you, where I'll do a shake, one or the other. Usually, it's always post-workout. But there's tons of choices. Some people prefer. I think I know Dixie from the forum. She's fairly new, and I think she lifts weights. I don't think she does CrossFit, so I think she is a weightlifter.
Oh
So
yeah, so ultra. I mean, if you can do like some level of Vitargo or Waxy Maize or something like that, I remember before I started using Vitargo, I would do Waxy Maize mixed with Gatorade, and I loved that. If I still had some of that available right now, I'd probably drink it because I always enjoyed the flavor of it.
I remember,
Um,
I remember you had talked about the Vitargo, forever, and I just couldn't take the leap. I was doing Gatorade, sometimes coconut water, and hadn't taken the leap yet. And then when I finally did, I was telling people from the Granite Game, some of the competitors this weekend who had never tried it, and I was like, seriously, I had never tried it, but once I did, it was huge difference. Just a
yeah,
huge difference comparatively speaking from the other stuff. So it's totally worth it, my opinion.
yeah. So Joey is asking if you have any follow-up question, Dixie, just let us know. Joey's asking, he's looking to compete in some local events. He's 6'4", 203, 206, just depending on the day. What's an ideal body weight for me to be competitive at? What's interesting, we have a incubator group um, that we have one of the guys that's actually similar to you. He's like 6'3", 6'4", and he I believe he was like 220, and he's kind of worked his way down to 205. And he's been talking to me a lot about how that just doesn't feel like he feels kind of gassed a lot. His lifting is fine, and he's strong as an ox. Um, but for him, he thinks he'd probably be better at 210 to 215. The problem that I have with 210 and 215 is I haven't seen anybody win the CrossFit Games at 210 to 215. That doesn't mean that it couldn't happen. Nate Schrader, as an example, is like 225, and he's pretty competitive. Um, so I think as a bigger person, um, you could probably get away with 210 to 215. The other thing too is that as you get a little bit heavier like that, you will often, your strength gains become a lot easier, and that usually makes a big difference for a lot of local competitions because they tend to like to go a little bit heavier, a little less gymnastic movements, things of that nature. So that would probably work into your favor a little bit. So, I would say get on some type of progressive system. If 203, 206 feels a little small, that's my inclination that it is probably a little small for 6'4". See how 210 to 215 feels. I think the biggest thing that people always get scared about, and I hope we're helping people with, is that they get scared. Oh gosh, what if I get to 215 and I'll never get back to 206? And then I'm proving like the worst case scenario, you just take it in 5-pound chunks, and you'll be back to where you were before. But oftentimes, if you're already pretty lean, you're going to be fine at 210, 215. We had a guy in the incubator group who was 175. He just competed in the Granite Games at 190, and he won the 5K. People get scared that when they put weight on that it's going to hurt their gymnastics and they're running too much. And oftentimes, this guy's like 5'10", 5'11". He's just holding back his potential. And so if you ask me my just opinion, my opinion is that probably at your height, 210 to 215. I think if you get to 225, 235, like Chad McKay is some of that size, that's where Chad starts to struggle. I mean, when we say struggle, I think he came in like 8th in the CrossFit Games, a year ago. So if that's struggling, being the 8th fittest person on the planet, then I'll take that all day long. But yeah, I mean, do you have any thoughts about that? I mean, for local competitions, I think that would put you pretty competitive. He's saying, believe it or not, or leave it or not, I'm up from 195, PR 3 times this past month. Just need a weight to where I need to stop. I feel good now. Just don't want to come up short. Yeah, I mean, if you feel good now, I mean, you can stop here. I think your body's just going to naturally go to where
Where it wants to be.
go.
Exactly.
Yeah. A lot of times, like I said, you might have been holding back your potential. I mean, at 195, at 6'4", you must have been like a real slender guy. Nice thing about being lean, and you can somewhat check this in the mirror, is at 203, 206, you're probably seeing yourself fill out and things of this nature. But if you start to lose some of that definition a little bit, maybe just hold off. Maybe at 210, you start to see some of your cuts and things of this nature going away. Just hang there for a little bit, but if it feels good, how old are you, Joey? He's gonna tell me he's like 23 or something.
I agree about getting the 210 and just hanging there. A lot of times,
He's
you'll
20.
have,
He's 26. I'm gonna tell you something at 26, dude. Long story short, I mean, I don't know any other way to say it, but like, if I could do it all over again, I guarantee you, I would not be concerned about getting fat. I'd be working on getting jacked. And honestly, I think that if you mentally got over the hurdle and felt comfortable getting to 210, 215, the amount of work capacity you'd be able to add, you know. The other thing too about kind of getting to your athletic potential because your weight is at the right place. Um, a lot of times, a guy will come to CrossFit, right? And he wants to be more competitive in CrossFit competitions. He enjoys them, things of this nature. And I have a friend of mine who, his goal was to go to CrossFit Games. And um, myself, another friend, we were like, I mean, that's awesome. And I hope that for you. But it was so obvious to everybody that this person, you know, is really an Olympic lifter. Um, and recently, because he got to the right size, he's now working with like Travis Mash and those guys out of North Carolina, and I think he's going to move there and try and get to some big numbers. Like he snatches like 250. Um, these are real numbers, especially for a guy that had no um, college background or anything like that. And so just that mindset of he got to the right place, and then his options were a lot more than just CrossFit at that point. Because I kept telling them, I'm like, look, man, you can keep playing around, you know, trying to get real good at burpees, but being real good at burpees doesn't make you good at CrossFit. I mean, you get strong and then get good at burpees. Don't do it the other way around. Because you can do the heck out of burpees, but anytime it comes to any serious movement, I mean, you're a big dude, and so being able to pack some muscle on at 26, you'll never have this opportunity again in your life. Between 26 and 32 is really when you have your max potential as a male. And so I would explore what that max potential is. Make sure that you've got your TDE dialed in, you're in the forums, you're checking in with people. If things start to feel wrong, start to feel uncomfortable, well then obviously we want to readjust that, but you have the resources to be able to do that. I wouldn't suggest you go to 235, unless for some reason that's what your athletic goals become. But yeah, I think 210, 215 will probably end up being a good weight for you and probably make you pretty competitive in local competitions. Um, so let me know if you have any follow-up or if any of that seems like kind of off and you have any questions. That would be fine. But I think you're on the right path, and there's really no reason to overthink it. So Arian is asking a question. Starting week 2 of ETP, bringing up my macros, my goals are 160 grams of protein, 235 grams of carbs, and 80 grams of fat. Those numbers sound great. I work all day and go to CrossFit 5:30 to 6:30. Find it difficult to get in a lot of my macros towards the end of the day. Last week, I would have a post-WOD meal, shake with banana, then come home for dinner. But I find it's a lot of food in just a few hours. Any recommendations as to meal timing and how to combine post-WOD and dinner? Here's the deal. Don't combine post-WOD and dinner. You drink that shake with a banana in it, and what you're going to find is you're not going to be able to eat dinner. I can almost never eat. I don't even have a post-WOD shake a lot of the time, and I can't eat dinner. If you go to bed, say 9, 10 o'clock, something like that, which I don't know, I do, but it makes it really difficult, for later WODs like that. I mean, because you think about it, it takes a while to wind down. Then you got to make your dinner and things of that nature. So what my suggestion would be is to eat a bigger pre-meal, and you could even have like a biggish snack, around say 3:30 or 4 o'clock, right? That'll make a really big difference and it'll allow you to hit your numbers a little bit. You could stick with the shake. My suggestion to you though would be either go with the shake and the banana and use that as your meal, or try and make that shake a little bit bigger, or just get the shake out of the pitcher completely and have real food around 7:30, 8 o'clock. That assumes that you go to sleep around, say, 10, 11. But yeah, it's kind of difficult to get in food, especially if you have like one of those wads that's just like a killer. You know, it's just that intensity of that wad really, kind of takes a lot out of you. What are your thoughts on that, Arian? Because I just really struggle. There's a lot of times where I come home and just have like Greek yogurt and some protein or something, just because I just can't eat a lot of food at that time of night. What are your thoughts on that, April? You work out mostly in the morning, though.
Yeah, I work out mostly in the morning. I think because she works out later in the day, basically 5:30 to 6:30. I agree about dropping the shake and actually just using her dinner as her post workout. I think that if
Yeah.
she basically had some protein, a couple of servings of white rice, she could easily hit 70 some 100 grams of carbs without the liquid nutrition with the bananas is going to be pretty dense on her stomach, and then it's going to be kind of difficult to drink that probably on the way home and then wait an hour, and then just the thought of eating something else again is probably going to be, you know, probably kind of repulsing at that point. So
Also, she says she gets better after 10. It's also better if you can kind of keep fat out of that meal. Um, you know, when you have like a protein, some carbs, and fats, often that'll fill you up real quick. But if you have something like maybe a 6-ounce steak, with some mashed potatoes or something like that, you can have your vegetables, around like your lunchtime, maybe have some up, cook some up in your eggs for breakfast or something like that. Um, but if you have like a salad, as an example, um, and especially after having a protein shake, these are things that really fill you up, and it's kind of a shock to your system. So, what I would do is, like I said, just get in um, mostly like a lean-ish cut of meat, and then like mashed potatoes or rice or sweet potato or something like that.
even like I found that ripe plantains, if you roast those, I think it's what 100. I think it's 200, 180 grams is actually almost 60 grams of carbs. 180 grams
Hmm.
weighed ripe plantains is 60 some grams of carbs, and it really doesn't make a lot. So I like to roast those with a little bit of cinnamon in the oven. It's kind of like a dessert. So you basically not eating a whole pile of food, and feeling overly stuffed eating those.
She's saying, I do find I feel stuff. I was just worried that I should get food in my system as soon as possible after my WOD so that I don't waste my workout. You're not wasting your workout if you eat, an hour later, even an hour and a half later. Um, if you're eating that meal and you're feeling stuffed and you can't eat other food, like, let me ask you a question. Do you think it's more important to get that 300 calories in post workout, or is it more important to get 750 calories in post workout and in a meal, right? What's going to give you the better value in terms of overall recovery? I would argue that, some of this is a little sciencey and it sort of depends, but I would argue that the calories and the amount of food is going to be the thing that's going to make a big difference for you. Because a lot of times, what ends up happening, and this has happened to me many times, where I'll have a shake post workout, right? So I don't feel hungry, and then all of a sudden it's 10 o'clock, and it's like stomach starts to gurgle. I'm like hungry, so then I have to have a meal at like 10 o'clock at night. That makes no sense at all. So what Mike talks about a lot is the four things basically go like this. Amount always is the most important. Um, let's see, it's amount,
Quantity, quality, time.
yeah, variety. It's
Yeah.
quantity, quality, variety, timing.
exactly.
right? So if you knew that and you knew that timing was fourth, you'd make better decisions. And I think ultimately, if you keep that shake out of the way, make sure that you get enough protein, you know, you might, for dessert, you might need to have some kind of, you know, protein bar or something like that. There's always, I mean, we were at the Granite Games, they have all these great protein bars. Um, and it's just so cool to be able to have a protein bar that tastes like a cinnamon roll. I don't use a lot of bars, but man, I might change that after this weekend. We had some really good tasting stuff. Um, so hopefully that's helpful. Let us know if you have any other questions. Um, Joey's saying, I've had some success with a protein shake right after and then some cereal before bed. Yeah, I mean, you can see what feels like it works, right? Because I think what he's saying would work for me. Because like I said, if I have a shake, I'm often not hungry, and then about 10 o'clock. So if I at 10 o'clock had a bowl of cereal with some coconut milk, man, that would probably hit the spot. So it's just sort of depends on what feels right for you. Um, you're saying yes to protein bars for dessert. Thanks, so helpful. Yeah, I think the thing about the protein bars for dessert is that even a 6 ounce steak isn't a lot of protein, and so you got to usually supplement. Um, Teddy was talking about uh, the challenge that I did on Instagram, and one of the things that was really popular was my yogurt with PB Smash. And so today I got cookies and cream, and had the cookies and cream with yogurt, and that was different. I wouldn't, the PB Smash actually ends up being kind of sweet. This was actually a little muted, which I kind of liked. And so, that is one suggestion I would make for you guys, because if you have like 2 scoops of protein along with yogurt, that's like 50 grams of protein right there. You know, and so that'll get you a long way to meeting your macros for the day. Um, so we are actually out of questions at this point. I don't know if more people had showed up. We can kind of hang out for a couple more minutes, but like I said, both April and I are just wasted from this weekend. It was so fun. I mean, like seeing Mackenzie compete, Kayla, Gary Jones. I mean, it's really a privilege for all of us, you guys. I mean, like Joey's talking about. I mean, we had so many people in Joey's situation that we're trying to be competitive at 195 or even 205, and then we talk them into going to 215, and all of a sudden they make regionals. All these things are popular or are possible. It's just a matter of allowing your body to meet its maximum potential. And so that's kind of a neat thing. Do you have any thoughts, takeaways from this weekend, April?
It was very rewarding for me meeting a lot of the people that I deal with, on a day-to-day basis in the forum, and them coming and giving me big hugs and saying, thank you for letting me harass you on a daily basis, type thing. And it was just cool, and it was cool seeing how hard, of course they tell me about their workouts, and and I see some of the videos and stuff, but it was kind of awesome just to see it in person, and see
Yeah,
how hard that they actually work at it.
when you see it in real life, it's different than seeing it on a video, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
I mean, because it's prolonged. The one thing that I like about these events that's a lot better than CrossFit gyms is they're like 8 minutes. I feel like that 8 minute is just like a wheelhouse. The one thing I was a little disappointed with was I didn't get to see Mickey Reese, who's somebody that I work. Well, I don't really work with her, but we've had discussions about nutrition in my gym. But she's 64, and she was competing 50 plus. So the closest person to her, she qualified at that age, and the closest person was actually 8 years younger than her. And
That's pretty awesome.
yeah, so she, they wrote her, they wrote up a big thing on her, and I was trying to tell the Granite Games all along, like they should be following her. Like she went to France, um, and she did her Granite Games qualifier in France, and took like a video of it, and I sent it to them, and they didn't put it up. I thought that was crazy. Um, let's see. Teddy was saying, glad you brought up your meals during your challenge. Something I saw fairly often was fat mixed in with carbs, like the double white rice with guacamole. Is that something you do often, since I know ETP usually recommends separating them? It is something I do often, and I will do it often when um, I need the calories overall. I will add the fat. Um, but I think the one thing that we always tell people that I think is really important, and that's a great example of, is you have to toy with what feels right for you, you know, and everybody kind of gets caught up in you know getting your muscles full with glycogen and all this other type of stuff. That's all great, but if I did that and had just double chicken with rice, which might be 500 calories, with the guacamole it's like 750 calories. That extra 250 calories actually might power me through the workout, whereas I might be a little bit sluggish the other way. It's not all about getting like a pump of glucose into your muscles. A lot of times it's just having enough energy to sustain you through the workout. You know, um, and I think people get carried away with like what is most optimal. I mean, I'm not Usain Bolt as an example. I'm not going to make the Olympics anytime soon. More or less, I want to go to a workout. I want to be as close to 100% as I can. You know, I genuinely like. I mean, there's a lot of people. Like I said, I've been sick for a couple days here. My sleep's been a little bit off. There's a lot of people who would work out in that situation. I don't need to work out in that situation. And the fact of the matter is, I'm probably going to feel a lot better getting that rest in. I mean, the one thing that I always struggle with even on deload weeks, is I'll find myself, there'll be a nice wad that I look at, and it's a little heavier than I should probably be going on a deload week, but I still do it because it's kind of a challenge. So, a situation like this, or like on vacation or something like that, kind of keeps me out of the gym, and that's not always a bad thing. Um, Joey's saying, what did they eat and drink in between wads? Well, my athletes drank Vitargo. I'm just being completely honest. We sell Vitargo. We have sold Vitargo. I was drinking Vitargo before we ever sold Vitargo. You um, do I use Vitargo every single workout? Absolutely not. I use it typically on lifting days. I maybe use it 2 days a week. But if you're in a competition, um, you should be drinking things like Vitargo. Um, you should have peanut butter jelly sandwiches. You should have mashed potatoes. You should have lots of things that go down easy. I see a lot of people bringing beef jerky and boiled eggs and things like that, and I'm like, good luck with that. You just don't get readily usable energy from that. My athletes, um, you know, we didn't have anybody like win or anything like that. I mean, these competitions are really, really tough. But like Eamon Coyne beat, he came in like 15th out of 90 people in the RX division. Um, Gary Jones, Caleb Pitts, they were in the elite division. They both finished, 15th to 19th. I mean, they were competing against Sam Briggs and Lon Fisher and the best in the world, you know. and they were able to hold their own. The way that you do that is having readily available energy. And Vitargo will do that. Peanut butter and jelly sandwiches will do that. Mashed potatoes will do that. You just got to have food
Forgot that
that's
they
nice.
bought us out of our RX bars too. We
RX
sold
bars,
out
yeah,
of those. Yeah.
yeah, the RX bars tend to be a pretty good one too. Just not this super heavy stuff that's real hard to digest because that makes it real hard during the competition. That said, Joey, what I would do is, if you have a competition coming up, I would try these suggestions weeks before. Like if what our guys all do is they do run-throughs for all the competition events, and they drink and eat the same exact way that they would during the competition. And so I would try that a month ahead of time, and start getting used to Vitargo or waxy maize or whatever drinkable carb you use, or mashed potatoes, or um, like sweet potatoes with peanut butter in it is a good one. If you don't do peanut butter, something like a hazelnut butter, like hazelnut chocolate with sweet potatoes would probably be good. Um, almond butter would probably be similar, though you don't get almond. But you might need a little salt to that. I would definitely use nun tabs, by the way, because oftentimes you'll get dehydrated at these events. Nun tabs are great for electrolytes, and so that'll get some of that stuff back in there. You see that a lot in triathlon competitions and things like that. So, well, guys, we're going to end that right here. This is actually a little bit easier. You guys were great getting us questions early on. If you have any follow-up questions, just hit us up in the forums. We did have one, let's see, question. You don't get too concerned possibility of extra fat storage with mixing fats and carbs. Okay, let me tell you guys something that's really interesting about this. Okay, people don't think of it like this. This is the way it is. If your total daily energy expenditure is 3,000 a day, and you eat 2,700 a day, as a general rule, you will not store fat. If your TDE is 3,000 and you eat 3,300, you may store fat. Okay, if you eat 3,300 and your TDE is 3,000, if you eat 3,300 every day, forever, you're going to store fat. People get concerned about storing fat too much, and mixing fat and carbs. It's not that it wouldn't be more optimal to do it that way, but having a little guacamole with rice and protein is not like, the way most people do it, right? The way most people are doing it, they're buttering bread and eating pasta with creamy, that's, let's not confuse guacamole with fettuccine. You know what I mean? Um, but if you haven't heard anything else here, hear this. If your calories are 3,000 a day and you eat 2,700 a day, you're not storing fat. So just get that out of your head. Um, April, any thoughts on what I'm saying there? Because I think people get too weird about that.
No, I totally agree. I think a lot of people get OCD and anal, in regards to the whole, like what you said. My thing is, if you want to have fettuccine, every now and then for a special treat, eat it. Granted, if you eat fettuccine Alfredo every night for your post-workout meal, yeah, you're probably going to get a little fat, in my opinion. I think the bigger concern is, when you're combining the higher carbs and the higher fats, in multiple meals. And whenever I say higher, I mean, 50 grams of carbs and 60 grams of fat or whatever. But like what you said with guacamole on rice, the ratio of the carbs to fat is, it's not even worth stressing over.
And
It's
the value of those carbs or those fats, um, largely outweigh the value of, the fats that are required to make the sauce for fettuccine. You know,
exactly, exactly.
um, Not, once again, no, nothing against fettuccine. If you want to have fettuccine on occasion, that's fine. But like April was saying, if you're having a diet consistently of fettuccine, you're probably going to have an issue. But this is consistent with what we talked about earlier, right? Amount, quality, variety, timing. Okay, what he's asking is a timing question. You know, the timing of your fats, the timing of your carbs around your workouts. You know, but what's most important? Okay, amounts. Amounts are most important when you're trying to eat enough food, but also, like I said during the weekend, the Granite Games, people ask me, how are you able to keep the weight off? I was very honest about it. I did not eat as much food as I normally would. Why did I not eat as much food as normally I would? Because I can't control it. When we went to Grizzly's Bar and Grill on Saturday night, I don't know how many calories in that, so I'm going to assume it's a lot, you know. And so, you
Can I
know,
just say that that place was awesome, and you
you
know,
like that place? Oh
yeah, oh, that place
God.
was awesome. No one gave me any props on the fact that I ate a fourth of a chicken, a half a
Oh God. I
smoked,
mean,
a half a pound of smoked, a half a pound of smoked turkey, and I ate Suzanne's half a rack of ribs. So I,
you and Suzanne like crushed some meat. It was amazing to watch. I was kind of upset when I got my steak and it was like, it was like 9 ounces. It was like small. It wasn't anything. I was really hungry after that.
you have to,
Um,
no, you have to go for what they were known for. The rotisserie chickens that were smoking in
No,
the.
you're right. I mean, we walked in the door, right? And it's rotisserie chicken. That's what we should have got. Um, but let's see. Teddy's got it. Thanks for clarifying. I read so many conflicting things sometimes, so it's good to get it straight. Yeah, I mean, I do. Everybody's going to tell you, keep your fats away from the blah, 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 blah. Look, the fact of the matter, if you're trying to get to 4% and you're trying to be stage ready, um, and you're on PEDs and you or all these different things, that's great. But if you're just a regular old dude, right, and your calories are normally 3,000 and you eat 2,700 and you're mixing your fats with your carbs, you're not going to get fat doing so. In fact, the fat will often blunt the response of the insulin, so you don't get that spike. And so when everybody talks about GI, the thing that I often bothers me about GI is their GI is done with one specific food in a fasted scenario, right? So if that person were to eat rice with guacamole, the GI would be vastly different because the guacamole would blunt the effect of the rice. And you go, well, wouldn't you want the effect of the rice? I mean, I eat an adequate amount of carbohydrates. I mean, nobody's accusing me of not eating enough carbohydrates anytime soon. Um,
I think you
well,
use.
actually,
I think you.
April does. April thinks I could eat more.
Yes, I do. I usually think you eat the rice and the guacamole for your pre-workout meal anyway, don't you?
Usually, what I'll do a lot of the time is, you know, there's a certain amount of work that goes on with Eat to Perform, and so, most people know that I eat two big-ish meals a day, right? So let's say that, the day got a little long on me. Maybe I had some protein and some yogurt around 10 or 11 o'clock. Um, I'm going to work out at 6 o'clock, so I'll have a meal around 2, and that's when I'll have guacamole. But let's say that I had pork chops, eggs, um, let's just say I had 2 or 3 pork chops and 2 or 3 eggs for breakfast. Um, at that point, I would just have like rice and chicken with no guacamole around like 3 or 4 o'clock. But if it's like 2 o'clock and it's like 3 or 4 hours until I work out, that's when I'll add the guacamole because I haven't had a lot of food in the morning time. So I hope people understand that difference. Um,
Yeah. And
but it,
I will generally do 15 grams of fat or so in my pre-workout meal, and I have no issues from doing that.
yeah, I
Zero,
don't.
you know.
Yeah, the yeah, I mean, yeah. So there you go. Okay, you guys. Well, I appreciate everybody being here. This will be what, the third time we try to shut this down. So uh, once again, follow up in the forums, and we'll talk to you guys there. Thanks a lot.